Welcome to Queers and Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Rochelle. Rochelle, aka Corinne, writes Love is Love in many forms, but is best known for her romance series Villainous Things and Villains in Space, and her polyam Why Choose series, Yaga's Riders, and Herculea. In general, her books feature a healthy blend of epic plot and kinky spice, respectful LGBTQ representation, witty banter, and dark humor, big feels, and emotional ruin. Those two things go together. And a unique writing style that welcomes readers to claim their spot at her weird hose table. Welcome, Corinne.
Thank you. That was a fun little spiel. Thank you.
That was fun to read. It was fun to read.
I like people to know what they're in for. It's best to be prepared.
You do a really good job of that, not only through your intro, but I was perusing your website and your sense of humor is so forward.
Yeah, it's very
in
forward.
Everything you put out. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, it's you really you need to. I always tell people that the correct reading order for me is to start with me on social media, because it's just you need to understand what you're in for, because my personality and my weird sense of humor, it just comes through in my books. And so if you find me cringe in a bad way as opposed to a good way on social media, then no, you're probably not going to like my books. So it's a good way to prep, Yeah.
Well, and speaking of reading order, you have a full chart on your website.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's, this villainous universe has taken a life of its own. And readers love the reading order charts. So I'm really trying to be better. I need to make some more charts, I think, because they seem to really like those to understand, because they don't want to read things out of order Right, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, then let's make a verbal chart now with the things that happened to make you into an author.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, I feel probably so many authors are I was a gifted and talented kid, and then look at me now. I feel that always happens. But reading was always just a part of my life, not just in school, but also at home. It was we had a whole library in my house. My mom would take my sister and I to the library, the local library, every week. To pick out new books. And it just, her dad, my papa, was an aspiring author who never got published, because back then there was no indie
there
publishing.
Were a lot of other people who had to say yes to that.
Exactly. And so his manuscripts never got published. But yeah, just a very creative family. And just no shortage of books, no shortage of opportunities.
Did you ever have a chance to read his manuscripts?
I feel like I poked at them a little. My uncle has them now. I should reach out to him, because he's the family historian anyway. But he has everything, and I believe he's actually digitizing them, which would be awesome, because obviously they were typewriter manuscripts. You know what I mean? They're but I have a feeling that they probably weren't appropriate for kids, just knowing my papa's sense of humor, which is where I get it from.
Right.
I definitely did not look at them
they
when I
weren't
was
going to hand
younger.
it to you as a sixth grader.
No,
and be
not
hey,
at all.
This amazing thing your grandpa made. But I think that would be so fascinating to have a piece of your family history and something creative from not only a family member, but a paternal family, a paternal ancestor, when creativity was so.
I know.
At his, in his stage of life,
he would have got exactly, yeah, because he was his day job. He was a ceramics engineer or something. He was just. It wasn't. This was a side hobby, which is what a lot of people treat writing as. But it was his little passion project, and But yeah, back then you couldn't get published if you didn't get an agent to bite. So he was just, dead in the water. So it would be interesting to read them to see what
Yeah. Yeah.
he was doing.
So I interrupted you. So you were influenced
No,
by a family of
that's fine.
creative people and writers.
Yeah.
But then how did you take it on?
I mean, it was something that I've just always done. Um, speaking of typewriters, like I literally remember pounding away. This is probably aging me because I'm like an 80s baby. But I just remember like pounding away on a little typewriter, like writing plays for like my friends and I to perform for our like, long suffering parents, like musicals.
Wow.
Like when we were younger, like to do little performances. Anytime just like back to, in school, like any writing programs at school, I was like all over them. But it's funny because it's not something I ever really thought of as a career, which is interesting because I went to art school. I went to Pratt for graphic design and marketing. So that's my professional background, and that's what I worked for many years. And it's come in handy for being an author. I tell you that. But it's interesting because my first year at Pratt, I remember it was the inaugural year of them opening a writing program. And my first freshman roommate was in that first year for writing. But even that, I was like, oh, that's cool, and like, I thought it was like vicariously, like thought it was cool through her, but it still wasn't something like I took a bunch of different writing electives, but it still was just never something that I considered as a career. And I can't really tell you why. It's just, I was so set on like graphic design and
I feel like it was probably the same reason your grandpa didn't do it. It's because when we were in college, there still wasn't really there was self-publishing.
Yeah.
You had to pay in a shit ton of money to
like the vanities.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vanity Press in order to do it.
Yeah.
And so they're really like, for people our age, there still was a lot of reticence to encourage somebody to get into writing, especially as a creative field. Like graphic design was burgeoning at that moment.
Exactly.
In time. So it's yes,
exactly.
that will be a career you'll be able to find work. But like as a writer, unless you were going into technical writing or journalism or something where there was a clearer path to a job, our generation was very much pointed towards a career.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because now I'm thinking about it. And when I was touring the school, I remember, I mean, I was pretty set on graphic design, but I remember going to that department, which also housed like the illustrators too, which was awesome to be like working with the illustrators and art directors and such. But I remember the director or assistant director, was meeting with the students and was like, well, in this department, we teach you how to make money. Yeah. And I thought that was so cool. Like, it was just like, that's what we do. Like, we're commercial designers. And that was totally fine with me. But I do know that in other departments, even the photography department, which I had good friends, like they were still, I don't know if Pratt still has this mindset, but they were very much like, oh, you're doing it for the art. Like, don't sell out. Don't try to make money. And my photographer friends were like, well, what? This is an expensive school. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still paying off my student loans. Like, I mean, it was not a cheap school. Right. But yet they're pushing their students to like not make money, to like, don't sell out. Don't, do it for the art. But it's like the way that, you have to know people. It's like such a like nepotism is king in the art world sometimes, and so it was just very interesting to me. And so of course I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I want to do graphic design. It'll make me money. And it did. And it definitely came in handy. It's come in handy. Like all of those skills, I do not feel were wasted at all, because obviously like with cover design, with all my marketing graphics, with my social media, like I just know what to do. Right. And I know that's such a stumbling block for my fellow authors, because like we have to be everything. We have to do everything. We're our own little marketing teams.
Yeah. And I do, like, I think we're totally going down a rabbit hole now.
No, that's okay. That's what
I also did some training and some work in marketing and graphic design. Yeah. And the thing that I think so many people are stumbling through right now is like, there's very easily accessible and user-friendly graphic design programs now. But if you don't start with the basics, the fundamentals of design,
Yeah.
you're just polishing something that's still not effective.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like I do have fancy programs because I know how to use them, but
Yeah.
I tell you what, I love Canva because I just can just bed rot and lay around, and like a lot of the graphics you see, like even my big I mean obviously this is not going to come out today, but I did a big cover reveal today. All those graphics, everything's just done in Canva because but you're right, it's like you don't have to, you can learn it. This is something you can learn, but to have that design eye, like, yes, there are existing designs in there, that you can use, but then you run the risk of your graphics looking exactly like someone else's if you don't know how to like tweak them. But it's one of those things. I mean, I understand why people get, bunched up about it, especially if it's not their wheelhouse. But it's one of those things, like kind of like writing, not to be like precious about it, but it's like the more you do it, the more you play around with it, like the more natural it will come.
Yeah.
And I know this is for a fact because sometimes I'll like take a break from writing so I can go design something because designing is so much easier for me than writing. It's like I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Like I don't even have to think about it. And it's relaxing because I don't have to think, like riding a bike. Whereas writing, while I don't have to think about it as much as I did perhaps when I started, a lot of it comes easier to me than it used to, but like it still saps my brain energy more than design. So just saying to anyone who's listening, you can do it.
Yeah,
You can do your own
certainly.
graphics.
Keep
You
going.
play around.
And if I can add to that, get feedback on your design. Because I think that's what a lot of people are missing is some
like I can't read that red text.
Critical feedback. Yeah. It's just simple things like that.
Yeah.
All right. So your author journey, we still haven't gotten to you.
I know.
This is publishing your first book. How did you write your first book?
I'm sorry. I should have warned you. I'm like, this is how it goes with me. I like the train of thought derails. Well, long story short, I kind of fell out of reading for a while, probably the college years, because, I was living in New York City and there was better things to do than read. But I got back into reading after I had my son because I was up late at night with, this 900-pound baby, like just breastfeeding all night. And that's what I started a Kindle Unlimited subscription. And because he was so big, I could only hold a Kindle. I couldn't hold a book. And so I was like up all night, just like reading my Kindle. And Kindle or Amazon or whatever was suggested. Well, it used to be, I mean, I don't really call it reverse harem. It's like the polyam why choose is what I call it. But it started suggesting these books to me. And I was like, oh, and because I was a big like YA reader. Like I loved YA because I just loved the epic plots. There was just enough romance to like get me by. Like sometimes it got a little spicy, but not really because it was YA, right? But I just loved the plots and like just the writing was always fantastic, great covers. And so I don't know why that led into Amazon suggesting, RH to me, but then I started reading it and I was like, oh, and obviously paranormal, why choose? I was like, oh, so I can get those same plots, but with more spice and lots of people involved. Like, yes, sign me up. So like, I got me back into reading. And I think that just started sparking creativity in me because it's funny. I actually used to have a podcast about reclaiming creativity after motherhood because it is like a thing that gets kind of like everything gets just sapped from you. Like your entire world is your kid and you really lose yourself, especially as like a creative person. And so that I think that spark happened of just reclaiming reading, the enjoyment of reading, and starting to think, not even consciously at first, that like, oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could try this. But it wasn't until really a number of years later, excuse me. And it really, I feel like I remember the book, but it was some, RH book. And I mean, if you know anything about RH, it has to be at least 3 guys and 1 girl, blah, blah. But like when you write it well, people have a hard time. Like they might have their favorite couple or favorite, pairing or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's not really a pairing, but, or they have a hard time choosing favorites. But I remember this one I was reading, I was really, really fixated on one of the guys and his relationship with the FMC. And it just, something about that, I was like, oh, I wish they'd go a little deeper with this one aspect or whatever. And the book was fine. And like, was a big author. They don't need my help. It was really just me fixating on something that they didn't even need, like the author didn't need to go there for their story. But I was like, oh, that would have been really interesting. And then it started to kind of grow from there of like, well, what if this happened instead? And like, And it just became like, it became where like, I wasn't even like sleeping because it was just like this idea was just messing with me, like, because I have a busy brain anyway. So if I'm really puzzling through something, it can be hard for me to sleep anyway. But it was like that.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was like a dog at the door, like, just like scratching, like until I like paid attention to it. And then like so many of my fellow authors, probably COVID happened. And I was working full time. But then we all started working from home. And my boss at the time, who was lovely, she figured out a way. I still don't fully understand this. It was something to do with unemployment where like we only had to work half time, but we were getting paid full time. No idea how that happened, but it was excellent. Good for her. Bless.
Yep.
She was amazing. But anyway, so we were working from home and I chose to do it. Like we had a choice. Do you want to spread out your hours through the week or have certain days? And I was like, it'd be kind of cool if I could just work Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if that's cool with you. And, she was like, that's fine. So I had these 2 days off a week all of a sudden where I was like, oh, maybe I should try that book. Like, you know what I mean? And so it became that. And so I was still working, gosh, definitely my first series that came out, I was still working there. And then partway into the second series, but then it started to become too much because writing this author thing is like 3 full-time jobs already.
Right.
Plus if you're a parent also. And then I was trying to work, and working from home is just not easy for, in certain jobs. And it became too much. And I was getting really, really stressed out. Like my boss could tell I was getting stressed out, and she like sent me on like a forced vacation because I was just like losing my mind. And during that vacation, I was like, you know what? I can't do this. And luckily this was after my second series had launched, and that was really my hit, my first hit, I should say. My first series didn't do much, but that's because marketer that I am, I still didn't understand that I needed to like do a lot of marketing before the first book hit.
Sure.
It just didn't occur to me. And
lesson learned. Industry has different rules.
Lesson learned.
Yeah.
So I really came in hot with the second series, and it just like took off. And I was, just guessing my trajectory. Luckily, my husband's job has health insurance, because that was a big thing too, because and he was making enough money that I was like, okay, so this is what I'm projecting. It was a lot of like money talk and the logistics and such.
Well, you have to think about that side too.
Yeah. And so I was really luckily in a position where I could, and it's a good thing, because I was slowly losing my mind trying to do both. Like I just could not concentrate on my 9-to-5 job. Like, because when you're puzzling through a story, it's like you literally have voices in your head, like talking to you, like, and especially, for someone like me, what always comes first when I'm writing is the dialogue. So they're literally jabbering away in my head, and I'm just like, oh my God. And like, just trying to think of, like, pay attention and like get things down before I lose them. It was not very conducive to like giving my best to, someone else.
Right.
So that was the roundabout journey. It's funny. I've actually never really like said all of that together before, but it makes sense. But
now you have it.
Now I have it.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Yeah. Well, and you also then, it makes sense why you found the queer characters that you attached to
Yeah.
And then, I like that you were like, I really like this in stories I'm reading.
Yeah,
And then therefore it
exactly.
inspires me to write the stories that are now existing in my head because
Right.
I'm so attached to the people.
Yes, exactly. I found myself being more attached, like when I was talking about that book that inspired me because of what wasn't there,
Yeah.
which is a weird way to say it. And I do not mean it to be like an insult to that author.
I
'Cause
mean,
it's
to me, you're just
totally different.
describing all of fan fiction,
Well, right.
which a lot of
Right.
authors have talked about. Like it's
Yeah,
when you
exactly.
get obsessed with something that isn't there,
Yes,
but the ingredients are there.
exactly. And it's so funny that you say fan fiction because I actually read a ton of fan fiction. It's like one of my favorite ways to unwind. Also, the spice is always excellent because
Right.
I have like a certain level of spice that I expect. And fan fiction is where it's at. But I always get very pleased when I stumble across reviews from my books, like the Villainous series, where they're like, "This reads like Marvel fan fiction. I love it." I'm like, yes. Like, I don't find that to be an insult at all. I'm like, that's exactly it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like, yes. It's
I
like
love that.
my people have arrived. Welcome.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, I feel like we talked about so many of the things that I usually ask like
I
specific
know
questions
this is what
about.
happens.
So, well, I just want to make sure that I'm not skipping over anything that
No,
you
go
wanted
ahead.
to share when it comes to like your literary influences
Uh-huh.
or like where people should start with your work.
Well, since we're specifically talking about Queers and Quills, which I'm so excited about.
Yes.
Yes, I was actually just ordering some fun little goodies for my table today. Well, those who are going to Queers and Quills, or those, in this particular in the queer reading community, are going to recognize me mostly from my Villainous Things series because it's MM. And there's definitely like a lot of MM readers who are not interested at all in reading anything with an F in there for whatever
Sure,
reason.
sure, sure.
Like, and that's totally like, there's some very legit reasons for that.
Right.
So I don't judge at all.
As we like to say on my other podcast, you girls.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm just like, I get it. Like, I get it. So
We say it tongue in cheek, by the way.
no, that's okay.
Nobody take that the wrong way.
That's okay. Well, it was
It's a
very
joke.
interesting because in the fifth Villainous Things book, which you do have to read them in order because there's an overarching storyline. In the fifth book, like it follows a family of supervillains. And so it's a whole bunch of brothers, but there is one sister. She kind of rules she kind of like, punches them into place. You know what I mean? But she gets her HEA like in the last book. The last book is, I like to say it's like the reunion book. So everyone's in there, all 13 POVs, which it actually wasn't the first time I'd written 13 POVs in a book, shockingly. It was a lot of fun, but it's very chaotic. And one of the few times I actually like took a lot of notes because I'm very much a pantser normally, but this one I had to keep individual crises,
Sure.
in line. But the sister finds her HEA in the final book, and that happens to be an FF storyline because it's with one of her brother's like best friends or whatever. Who's also carrying her brother's surrogate child. So there's lots of drama. This whole family is like it's like a telenovela. That's what they say.
Oh, I like that. I like it.
Yeah, it's a very dramatic family. But I remember when I knew that was going to be in there, and I remember talking to my patrons about it because I was like, hey, I understand that some MM readers have legitimate reasons why they don't like to read, anything with a female, or FF, or like, it's totally legit. I don't want to be including this as if it's a trigger warning because it's not. You know what I mean? But I still want to make sure that people going into the book feel prepared. And so I actually talked it through with my patrons because I was like, I want to make sure, because I'm known for these really ridiculously long, I call them my content tropes, kinks, and triggers lists, because it's a lot. It's not all just tropes, like,
Sure.
like things like MM are not tropes, it's content. So I did include it in there, but more just, for anyone who, wants to, skip the chapter with actual FF on page. Like, you can skip this chapter. I hope you don't, because it's, part of their relationship arc. However, just, I just tried to handle it as delicately as possible. And that also wasn't the first time I'd written FF. So I do try to write like all manner of, pairings and, couples and thruples and polycules. Everyone's just equally messy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just fun to me.
I love that.
But yeah, so I'm known best for villainous things. And that starts with Not All Himbos Wear Capes, which, those who follow me will already know this. It originally began as a Patreon serial. It was just like literally a just for funsies. Like, oh, I got this crazy idea to write, an MM, between a superhero and a villain who match on a dating app as normies, and they don't know that the other person is a soup. They don't know that it's the soup that they're secretly obsessed with as their soup selves. They don't know that it's the sons of their parents' greatest enemy. Like, like all these layers. Of it's like the hidden identity trope, but like magnified. And so I started writing that on Patreon, and my patrons just loved it. They just like went nuts for it. They're like, you have to publish this. I'm like, I do. Like, I had no plans. And honestly, it's funny because here I am like bragging about my graphic design skills, like quite literally slapped together a cover.
Sure.
In my opinion, it's like, I mean, I think it's a fine cover, but it was funny because then once the series took off, I'm like, oh, I have to make all the other covers match. And like, it's not my best typography. I'm just going to say that. Anyway, so yeah, I published it and it did really well. And I was like, okay. And it was interesting too, because I originally had thought, oh, I'll continue with the same couple in the series. But my alpha readers, my earliest readers, who are in the doc with me were like, no. You need to write about Wolfie next, who's like the big brother, the head of they call them clans.
Sure.
And he's like totally like the morally gray, like kind of creepy, like they're like him, like we want him. And I was like, okay. Like he's literally in the book for like 10 pages just being creepy and threatening, and they're like, we want him next. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
He's like leather gloves on because his superpower is that
that sounds right.
Yeah, because his superpower is he drains the life if he touches you. So they're like, yes, we need him. And I'm like, okay, cool. So now you want me to write an HEA for someone who can't touch anyone. That's cool. So we had to figure that one out. But so then it became each brother getting, their HEA. But the plot, in book one, we find out secrets about heroes and villains, blah, 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 But that plot kind of ties up enough that if himbos had not taken off, people would have still been satisfied. Of course, they weren't satisfied because they wanted more of the other brothers. However, the overall plot then kicks off in book two, which is Gentlemen Prefer Villains. And then it just goes from there. So you really do have to read them in order. And book three, Putting Up for Hero. Book four is Enter the Multiverse, and that's the youngest brothers. They're twins, so that one's an MMM.
Okay.
And then we take a little spin-off into space. That's where Villains in Space comes in, because we meet a side character. We actually meet him in book three, and he becomes more of the story in book four. I don't want to give too much away, but anyway. And then we take off into space with him and the brother of one of the other MCs. And so that book, if you're reading in that chronological order, like we're talking about that the readers love so much, that book actually, Earth Boys Are Easy is what it's called. And yes, I take great pride in these ridiculous titles. I really do enjoy them. But
they're
book,
referential. They're like, I
well,
get
right.
it,
Well, right. And they're memorable. Like people, I do see comments. If I had a dime, I swear, for every review that's like, I almost didn't try this because of the cover. I'm so glad I did. But I'm like, but you did try it and you noticed it because of not because of the cover, excuse me, but because of the title. Sometimes they don't like the cover either, which is fair. But it's always like, I wasn't sure because of the title. And I'm like, well, but it tells you everything you need to know about me. So go ahead.
And it's like, it doesn't have to be that serious either.
No, I mean, oh my God, it's so not serious. I refer to some of my series very lovingly as like the Saturday morning cartoon versions, like of like the shifter romances. Like some of them are just pure fun. Right. And like it's a world in which everybody has powers. Yep. And every plot is like 6 plot points deep, and like every person's related to every other person, and they are all finding their chosen one, and it's like it's all like what we loved as kids. Right, exactly. Those stories. It's totally like I'm just here for a good time, and it doesn't. And as you were saying in the the lovely intro, there is a lot of emotional moments in my books, and like deep moments and deep connection, but it's still like we're just having a good time too. Like, I'm not here writing the like next great American novel. Like the book that I revealed the cover for today, that's coming out at the end of April, is the second book to Earth Boys Are Easy. It's called Space Daddy's Guide to the Galaxy. I mean, like, here we are. Say less. Say less. And so, and I actually did. It's funny though, because I had been sitting here like, man, I have to come up with the book, because it's a trilogy. That one's a trilogy, and it's the same couple throughout. Just like it's they're kind of fighting like a different big bad in space, in each one, but their relationship has its own arc, like throughout. So I was sitting here recently thinking, man, I really have to come up with a title for book 3. Like, how am I going to top Earth Boys Are Easy and Space Daddy's Guide to the Galaxy? But the title I came up with for book 3, it's actually more sweet than anything, but it actually fits this couple, because one of them, our alien, as opposed to our superhero and alien, he's pretty morally gray, but he's totally soft for his Earthling, like, so they do have a very sweet relationship, even though he's out like just like murdering people who like look at his mate wrong, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a fine line here. But book 3 is going to be called Interstellar Love Song, which I know, I was like, I actually like, that's fitting. Like, it's their little trilogy tied up, and they're cute. They're like green, even though one is very morally gray, they're definitely like green flag men. Like the two of them, like these two have the best communication of any of my couples, because I'm slightly known for miscommunication in my books, and I love it. I love it so much. And I think I do it well. I know people they'll say blanket, like, oh, I hate miscommunication. I'm like, you don't like it when it's not done well. Sure. When it's just there, and like you're literally screaming at them, like, just talk. Like, come on. Like, this is just to make something happen. Yeah. And of course I probably have moments like that. I'm not acting like I don't, but I just joke about it at this point. I'm like, get ready for miscommunication, but this particular couple, our Earthling superhero Micah, he's actually like very much like communication king, and like makes this emotionally constipated alien like learn how to communicate with him. It's like his mission in life, besides to put a ring on it, to like make this alien like learn how to communicate. So there's a lot of communication with these two, as opposed to like the mess of the main family, who's just like super dramatic. Yeah. Well, we've added to quite a few people's TBRs, I'm sure. Yeah. Where should I start? The beginning, and then do all of them. Yes, exactly. Well, in this case, you can start with Not All Himbos Wear Capes. I do tell people they can also start with Earth Boys Are Easy, and like do that trilogy if they want. They can then circle back. But I still tell them, if they want to read it in like the true chronological order, there is that handy chart on my website. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, part of the conceit of this podcast is that I would need to play a game to get to know people better. Okay. But I don't think I need to get to know you better. You're good at
revealing things about yourself. But just to be consistent with other episodes, let's play a couple rounds of the game.
Sure.
So I have a deck of cards. On the cards are questions, but I'm not going to pick which questions you answer. Fate's going to do that for us. So I'm going to deal 3 cards. You pick one. You're agreeing to answer the question that I pick. Or that
I can't pass. Really. I can't pass.
Well, you have 2 opportunities.
Oh, okay. Oh, God.
To get out of it. One, you can turn it around and make me answer the question.
Oh, okay.
Or if you don't want to answer a personal question, you can draw from our white deck, which is more bookish questions.
Oh.
But then you only get 1 card and you have to answer that question.
Okay. Fair. That's fair.
All right?
Yep.
So here we go. Like I said, I think we only have time for a couple rounds, but we're going to do it. So card 1, card 2, or card 3?
3.
3. What is something you like that most people don't?
I mean, I feel like I kind of just answered this. I love miscommunication.
Yes.
I also love, okay, I'll do a different one. If we're going to, can we make it tropes? Is it okay that it's a bookish answer? I really like, I feel like this is another weirdly divisive one. But it's because I write it a lot, that I love it, obviously. But fated mates, I just go nuts for fated mates. And I know that, it's a paranormal romance thing. And I do read a lot of contemporary romance. So no, you don't always find it in there in the same, not in the same way, you know, but oh man, I just love it. I love the idea of there being like a person or persons like just for you. I just love that. It makes me all like tingly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
2.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure? God, I'm such an open book. Like, what is it that I'm like actually hiding from people? I don't know. God, I guess like reading extra spicy, filthy fanfic. I mean, it's not a secret. It's certainly not a secret, but like, yeah, that's like my, okay, I'm like down for the night, like wrapped up in my like nest in my bed, like with my cat near me, like reading fanfic. Like, yes.
Yeah. It sounds like it's not something that you feel guilty about, but it is something that people out there might feel guilty about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
But not you.
Not me.
All right. Let's do one more. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Let's do 1 this time.
All right. If you had to teach a class on one thing, what would it be? I
mean, I'd probably circle back. Ugh, it's such a corporate term. I'd probably circle back to, I know I'm like thinking back to my like corporate days. Gross. To like what I briefly had the podcast about, like just rediscovering your creativity, not necessarily after motherhood, parenthood, or whatever, but just I feel like when people are children, you're just allowed so much more like creative expression, and that really gets. I mean, sometimes some people do come from situations where I don't think it's as encouraged, and sometimes even discouraged, but I just feel like I really enjoy talking to other people who've like discovered their passion or like exploring different passions, because it doesn't have to be just one thing, right?
Yeah.
Like people feel like they have to find their one true calling, and you're like, it might not be one thing. Like I personally have had like multiple careers. Like I didn't only do graphic design and then writing. Like I've done all sorts of weird, I was like a plant waterer. Like, I mean, I did like a horticulturist. Like I did all sorts of crazy stuff. So like, you know, I just feel like to encourage people to follow those little like sparks of inspiration more. And that it doesn't have to turn into something that even makes you money. Like it can just be something that, you know, lights you up.
That would be a really cool class to take.
Right? Yeah, I just feel like people need that push.
Your passions.
Yeah, they just need that push sometimes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been so much fun. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Good. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you are already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and to Corinne at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram so you can see all the fun we're having this year and get updates about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.